Hello everyone. In today's video we're going to talk about how to manage your time like a CEO. The first question you should always ask is, what is the highest value use of my attention? That one question changes everything. Because the goal is not to fill your calendar. The goal is to build a life and business where your time is focused on the right things. If your calendar is full but your results are flat, you do not have a time problem, you have a priority problem. And today I want to show you how to manage your time like a CEO. Real quick, let's go over the first thing we're going to talk about today is CEOs protect attention before they protect time. The first mistake most people make is thinking all hours are equal. They are not. 1 hour of decision making can be worth more than 24 hours of work. You know, it's often said in architecture that 1 hour of planning is worth more than an entire day. You know, there's not a more true statement than that. That's how important, that is. You should just go ahead and write that down. Also, you got to remember that, a CEO understands that attention is the real asset. You can have time on the calendar, but if your attention is divided between text, emails, notifications, and random tasks, that's fragmented, and that can produce weak decisions. So the first rule: protect your best attention for your best work. For investors, that might mean research, portfolio review, studying earnings, or reading financial statements. For business owners, it might mean strategy, sales, content creation, hiring, or improving systems. For creators, it might mean writing, recording, studying the audience, or building repeatable content frameworks. The key is this: do not give your best energy to low value tasks. You want to do the most important thing first. Always prioritize the most important first. When you first wake up, those first couple hours are the most important. So get the most important work done. You don't want to give your best energy to email, random scrolling, or administrative work. You should use this time to focus on things that compound. Second, CEOs build their calendar around priorities. That's key to long-term success. Really, you got to remember, CEO level time management is key. A CEO decides in advance what matters. That means your calendar should reflect your real priorities. If it's health, you need a block. If it's investing, you need a block for that. If it's family time, it needs protected time. If it's business development, you need to make sure that everything has a set schedule. Also, you got to remember, if someone studied your calendar, what would they think about it? Your calendar says a lot about you. You can say you are building wealth. So basically, by looking at your calendar, they can see what your priorities really are. So if you get a second, go back and look at this, the past 6 months, and see what your priorities have been. Are they aligned with what your actual priorities are? And go ahead and look forward for the next 6 to 12 months. Make sure that you have what matters most prioritized. Also, you want already have your goals set, and basically every quarter have a quarterly review. Are you on the right trajectory to accomplish what you're setting out? You got to remember, consistency is the key. You got to remember that a calendar is not just a schedule, it is a strategy document. Third, CEOs separate deep work from administrative work. One of the fastest ways to waste a day is by mixing different types of work. You don't want to mix your email, your research, your texting. Everything should have a set schedule. CEOs separate work into categories. There is deep work, there is administrative work, there is communication work, there is review work, and there is recovery time. At the end of the day, I also like to have assessments of all my meetings. Everyone I talk to, what I got accomplished, and what, basically assess the whole meeting. Just go over the whole conversation. That way, that the next time I have that meeting, I can get the most from it. Also, you got to remember, deep work should usually happen when your energy is highest. It's the same if you're working out. You want to work out when your energy is, when you have the most energy. You got to remember, deep work requires thinking. So you've got writing, planning, investing research, business strategy, decision making, studying, and building systems. You got to remember that administrative work should be batched. That means you do not check email all day. You do not respond to messages every 5 minutes. You do not let small tasks interrupt important thinking. You give administrative work a container. For example, from 8 to 9, you may have a personal administration. From 1 to 2, you can do follow-ups and networking. From 3 to 3:30, you can review loose ends. That structure creates control. The goal is not to ignore small tasks. The goal is to stop small tasks from stealing from your more important assignments. Fourth, CEOs use decision filters. You got to remember, you can't say yes to everything. That's where a lot of people lose control of their time. They say yes too quickly. They commit without checking capacity. They take on work that does not match what they're already doing. They confuse opportunity with alignment. A decision filter helps protect your time. Before saying yes, ask, does this support my long-term goals? Does this match my current season? What does this replace? Is this worth the attention cost? Can this be delegated, delayed, simplified, or deleted? You gotta remember, what does this replace is an important question, because every yes is not just a yes. Every yes is also a no to something else. If you say yes to random plans, you might be saying no to something important. So, you always need to evaluate every decision you make. You got to remember that CEO level time management requires constraint. You got to remember, not everything gets access to your calendar. Fifth, CEOs review their time like investors review a portfolio. This is one of the most important ideas. Your time is a portfolio. Some activities compound, some maintain, some drain, some produce almost no return. So you always want to evaluate every hour of your day and what it's actually, what you're actually getting back in return. A smart investor does not just buy random assets and never review them. They look at performance, they look at risk, they look at allocation, they ask whether each holding still deserves capital. You can do the same thing with your time. At the end of the week, I always ask, what created the most progress? What wasted the most time? What gave me energy? What drained energy? What should I repeat next week? What should I remove or reduce? This turns time management into a feedback loop. You're not trying to build the perfect schedule once. You are improving the system every week. And that's how CEOs think. They do not just work hard. They inspect this system and then improve upon it. Sixth, CEOs create repeatable systems. A strong schedule depends on systems. If you have to rethink everything every day, you waste energy before the real work even begins. That's why repeatable systems matter. You need default blocks: a morning review, a market research block, a content creation block, a follow-up block, a health block, and a weekly review. The more repeatable your schedule becomes, the better you are set up for success overall. Consistency is the key. Seventh, CEOs know energy management is time management. Energy is extremely important. Like I just went over earlier in the video, that the first couple hours are the most important when doing compounding work. I personally like to take a nap, and after that nap, those first couple hours, I do the most important assignments. If I didn't get it done in the first couple hours, I've also got basically I have a nap, and I'll after lunch get back up, and those next 2 hours are extremely important. To be consistent every day, and like I said, I might have 2 of the most important assignments in the first part of the day. Hopefully I'll get that done. Just be consistent, and after lunch take a nap. Then I'll have the third and fourth most important assignments. You have to remember that CEO level time management includes recovery. Protecting your energy is key. Better energy produces better judgment. Better judgment produces better decisions. And better decisions produce better outcomes over time. That is the chain. Eighth, CEOs focus on leverage. Not all tasks are equal. Some tasks produce one-time results. Other tasks keep producing value after the work is done. That is leverage. You can have a YouTube video that can work after it is published. A checklist can be reused. A system can train future behavior. A template can save hours. A strong investing process can improve decisions for years. CEO level time management, looks for leverage. The goal is to build assets. You want to build frameworks, build standard operating procedures, build checklists, build templates, build content libraries, build investing rules, build better habits. And when you manage your time like a CEO, you will see your results compounding over time. You're building a system that gets stronger. Ninth, the CEO time management framework. Let's go over that real quick. First, you want to capture. Get everything, that you're thinking about: tasks, ideas, follow-ups, bills, content ideas, investing notes, and personal responsibility. Second, you want to clarify. Decide what each item means. Is it a task, a project, a reminder, a decision, a future idea, something to delete? Third, your calendar. Put the most important work into time blocks. Do not just make a to-do list. A to-do list without time attached is only a wish list. Fourth, constrain. Say no to anything that does not fit your priorities, capacity, or season. Protect the calendar. Fifth, review. At the end of the day and week, inspect what worked. Improve the system. That is the CEO loop. So it's capture, clarify, calendar, constrain, and review. Appreciate everyone watching the video this week. Please hit like and subscribe, and come back next week to check out our latest videos on productivity. If you have any questions or comments, leave in the comments section below. I'll be more than happy to answer.